like that.
Since it's working, let's keep it.
Well, good morning. We are on Hildur, and good morning. I'm Keith Fiveson with the Work Mindfulness Project for the Center for Wellbeing, and I want to again say how wonderful it is to have these Wednesday shows with you, Hildur. We have a wonderful guest today that's going to give us some view. Tell us a little bit about that. We have a screen showing up here. What's that all about?
Yes, I'm going to introduce Lily. Lily, my favorite environmentalists today are her generation, and she's going to lead this segment with her view of the world. So I'm going to give you the word, Lily.
Lily, the world, Generation Z. We're not putting too much pressure on you, I hope.
It's really talking to Lily that it becomes more clear to me what my work is. It's continuing, and I am just really thrilled that the generation you're talking about today, Lily, Generation Z, is actually much more awake and aware than I remember my generation in those years. We were sort of self-absorbed and probably not as aware of environmental issues. I was born in 1973. So that was sort of when the environmental movement started. And it wasn't until in my 20s that I started realizing or having a sense of a larger environment. So I'm really excited to connect with you. We had the pleasure of bird banding yesterday.
Yeah.
Together with Audubon, and I know you're very active, and I look forward to hear about your work and your view. Welcome.
Yeah, and Lily, I think one of the things that I was impressed about, and Hildur, thank you so much for bringing Lily into the show, is this background about turning over rocks and naming bugs for a long time, but also having a fascination with the natural world and taking steps to lower your personal carbon footprint. And that to me is very fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about that? You have a presentation. Is that included in the presentation? And what are your thoughts in terms of what's happening in the world today and what we can do to maybe make the world a better place?
Okay. I don't have an exact segment in my presentation about it, though I plan on touching upon it during different points.
Oh, great.
I think that right now in the world, there's a lot of different views. Like there are a lot of people right now that deny climate change is happening in any form. There are a lot of people that accept that it's happening but don't think it's humans. And then there are people that accept that it's happening and know that at least a pretty big chunk of it is people that are doing it. And depending on which groups of people are the ones making the policies, that it changes whether or not those like regulations are there, how that's going to work, and everything like that. My cousin is an environmental lawyer, and not Oregon, but she writes this legislation for California that does that writes about regulations for different chemicals in factories. And because she writes that, and since a lot of Silicon Valley stuff is from California, it's making a bit of an impact. And I think we need more people like that in government, and that'll be able to make a change.
I like that. I like that. So
yes, and I happen to know that Lily is headed into government. Perhaps you have your eyes on policymaking, right?
Potentially, I have a lot of ideas on what I might do in college.
We should get to your presentation.
So my presentation is about what I do for volunteering on Long Island in Port Washington and Generation Z in general, which are people ages 11 through 23.
Just a question, Lily, is that your bird in the background?
Oh yeah, I have two parrots, and they're different. One's an Indian ringneck and one's a green-cheeked conure, and they like to talk to each other.
They're having a really wonderful conversation today. I just want to recognize them. So that's great.
Not usually this loud, I'm surprised.
They're happy that you're there having the conversation.
Yeah. So I was already introduced earlier, but some other things about me. I'm 16 years old. I volunteer in Port Washington in a program that's a collaboration between ReWild Long Island and Plant a Row Port Washington. This program seeks to fight hunger and climate change by encouraging people to donate some of their produce to people who are hungry, and also it has gardens that combine both native plants and vegetables in order to increase biodiversity and preserve it, as well as encouraging like native insects and birds to go to the gardens, as well as providing food for the community locally who need it. So that's both environmentally friendly because it's not like coming from another country, it's not in plastic, it's food from here, for people who can't normally afford food here. And every time we have a big harvest, it makes me really happy knowing that that's what's happening and that I'm part of it. The first location that I've been to the most is the Plant a Row Garden at the Science Museum of Long Island. Over there, there's one of the zucchinis that was harvested yesterday. A lot of the zucchinis get really big for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but every day there's always like a huge zucchini plant and a lot of them. And that's always great because, like I said before, knowing where it's going definitely makes it a lot better to know that I'm harvesting it. We also grow like tomatoes, peppers, string beans, okra, sunflowers, though a lot of them went down in the storm. What else? Kohlrabi, radishes, like a lot of food, and it's been really successful so far this year. And also there, I think North Shore Audubon started a pollinator garden there. So over there, there's a picture of a monarch butterfly on one of the swamp milkweed plants. And every time I go there, assuming it's not storming, there are a lot of monarch butterflies just flying around and perching on the flowers and drinking. And sometimes you could turn over the leaves and there are monarch eggs there. And that's also like it just feels like awesome to see nature happening so close while we're also doing something that helps people directly. I really enjoy it there. And that's the location I've been to the most. This is from the other Plant a Row garden. It's at the Helen Keller Center at Sands Point Preserve. I don't have many pictures from there.
Lily, I think your birds want to join the show today.
Yeah. I
love it.
Loud.
They're competing. But I have a question here from Min. She's asking, what color are butterfly eggs? So if we're talking about monarchs, they're a mild cream colored, right? Have you seen any? Have you seen any today?
They're whitish and they're kind of like slightly angular. They look like an exact circle, but if you look at them under a microscope, they should be angular. They're also very, very small. Like around the size of aphids, but like different shape and height. So yeah, thank you for the question. This picture right here is from the Helen Keller Center. And I don't have many pictures there since I've only been there twice, but there's a deer that, oh, I just noticed stuff from the chat. Second. Would cabbage butterflies have little brown ones? I don't know much about different types of butterflies yet, but I want to learn more, so I'll look into that at some point.
So is this at the Helen Keller Center as well? We've got some garbage located around there as well. Did I see that?
Oh, that was from another.
Oh, I see.
Another slide, but I don't have many pictures from there because, oh my god, the birds. But I don't have many pictures from there because I've only been there twice, and those times it was very focused on. Oh my god, so sorry. Very focused on gardening and watering and other stuff. So I didn't really end up taking a lot of pictures, plus it's later in the day, so my phone's on lower battery. But I have this picture of a deer that we saw there, and I forgot which week it was, but for like a few weeks, there were deer that would be all over the area near the Helen Keller Center and like munch on the plants. And it was really cool seeing a deer in person because I'm from Merrick, which is on the South Shore, and I've just never seen a deer in person before because we don't really have many of them nearby. And it was just really beautiful seeing that there. This is I also don't have many pictures from the Dodge Garden, which is run by ReWild for the same reason, being that I don't spend a lot of time there. But I thought it was interesting that Tanya Klusner is one of the people that helped run the program, was there this day, and we found two similar looking plants, but one is poison ivy and one is a wild blackberry bush. So you can see on the left, there's the one that's the blackberry. The stem is bluer, it has thorns, and leaves are serrated as opposed to the one poison ivy, which is on the right, has more of the weird shape. Like weird, I don't know how to explain it, like a thicker shape. Yeah, that was interesting learning that. I also found a toad there on that same day. Pretty cool. Wait. Just got notifications in it. I don't have pictures from the other locations because I've only been to the Grow and Love Community Garden once, and I didn't have time to take pictures. And the other locations are pots that are located around Main Street where different businesses put out these pots that grow vegetables and tomatoes, and those vegetables and produce gets donated to the same place the other stuff does, which is the church that redistributes it to families in need. And I think it's Saturday. I think it's Saturday, people go ride their bikes past that area and check on the plants and make sure they're doing good. I haven't been there yet because it's a 30-minute drive to get there, and it's not really sustainable to drive 30 minutes just to go past some plants and check on them. I haven't done it yet, but maybe if I'm already there for some reason, I'll do it.
Right. So we see, is this garbage that we're seeing that you're taking a picture of, the plastic, your idea here?
Oh yeah, I took a blackberry plant home and I put it in like this reused plastic cup that Tanya had.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
I don't know what that little thing is. I think it's like probably just a weird way that light is reflecting on wood. Going to go check the chat again. So here are some statistics which I think are really fascinating about Generation Z, since Generation Z are the people who are, for the majority, doing the volunteering. Like this program is meant for high schoolers. So mostly in Port Washington and Manhasset, and I think some are further away. People are coming in to do this work, committing usually at least 2 to 4 hours a week to like help preserve biodiversity, help do the harvest, like weed, water the plants, try to stake different plants if they're falling down. Yeah. So that got me thinking about.
So can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. The statistics here, you say 79% are eager to go meatless. Where do you have this data from?
I go check. I have like the tab open. I forgot to write it down.
Yeah, that's fine. No, you just share with us later. We'll share in the follow-up with the recording. But I'm just curious. That's really I think that's encouraging. I think plant-based diet is really it's really crucial going forward. Yeah. And you say that 62% have the potential to change the world.
Yeah.
I like that. That's Yeah.
one of the most fascinating ones, because I think it was like compared to like earlier generations, it was still a majority, but it wasn't 62%.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And I think you were right on, you touched upon it in the beginning of your presentation, that it's through regulation. We must make it into those key positions, leadership positions, and that includes government,
Yeah.
notably. Yeah.
And I think if 79% of the world went meatless, we'd have a real opportunity to change the world without questions. So
Yeah,
that's
just recently, I'm convinced that kelp will save the world. Seaweed, because we have 2/3 of the planet covered in ocean, and there's so much potential for ocean farming, crop at sea instead of exhausting land. So we can talk about that maybe in the interactive segment. I'll let you go back to your presentation.
Thank you. Because the programs are all like the volunteers are majority like teenagers, it got me thinking about how many people my age are getting involved on these like environmental issues and social stuff. So like feeding the hungry and trying to make sure everyone's doing okay. And I got some statistics. Most of them are for Pew Research Center, and there are two others. I forgot the exact sources, but I have them. I could like go check them on my phone in a little bit. But some of the ones that I thought were the most fascinating were that 62% of Generation Z believes that they have the potential to change the world, which is incredible, because that if people believe that they can change the world, and it's so many of them, then I have no doubt that there's going to be some sort of difference in the future, like within our lifetimes, which is amazing. 54% believe that humans are the primary cause of climate change, and only 10% believe that that's happening, deny that it's happening at all. That's from Pew Research Center. The fact that a majority of people in Generation Z believe that humans are the primary cause of climate change shows that they know that they have some ability to stop it. If they know that it's us that is causing it, then have some more capacity to know how we could combat it, if that sort of makes sense. This is compared to, I think millennials had a similar percentage, but before that it was like a minority of people in earlier generations believe that. Generation Z is said to be the most educated generation, with the majority of high schoolers being set off to a degree in college or some other form of secondary education. 70% believe the government should do more to solve problems. This survey put the sort of government down as an activist government, which I thought was amazing wording, because it shows that the government's going to actually combat these problems and not just be bigger in general. And it's really important because the government is the body that makes these regulations, like on different chemicals that could be sold without a license, or just chemicals being sold in general, where these pipelines are, and how we're going to organize like infrastructure changes and all that stuff. It's mostly with the government. And the fact that there's so many, 70%, that's enough to like win an election or support a candidate that's going to fight for these things, which is very important. 79% consider themselves eager to go meatless. There's a lot of talk about how animal agriculture is a significant source of greenhouse gases, especially cows with methane, and the fact that deforestation is a big contributor, like the prevents carbon sequestration. And in order to have these like big animal agricultural plots, you need to cut down trees for the most part, because you need space. A good example would be last year in the Amazon. There are people that were setting fire to the forest to make space for these plots that would like either grow solely for animal feed, or it was just for cows in general. And I think personally that's what opened my eyes up to the ways that meat is bad for the environment, and caused me to cut out meat eventually. And I think it's definitely making an impact. A 2019 survey found that 41% of people 18 through 25 believe climate change is the most important issue in the world. And I say that for the last one because I think it's the most impactful, since the belief that climate change is this important will cause people to want to fight for it and make a difference in the world.
I like that one. It's very important. The last two ones are wonderful. Thank you. And the sources for this, we'd love to see the sources as well. Thank you.
Lily and team, can I share a couple of thoughts with you?
So my mouse isn't showing up.
Hello, Lily, can everyone hear me? It's Marvin.
Yes. Oh, hi.
We
Yeah.
can hear you, Marvin. We can't see you though. We're not sure where you are.
My face is not on your screen and everybody looks so terrific this morning.
No, we can't see you.
I think we should, Lily, could you go off the presentation mode so we could see each other for a little bit and go into interactive mode, and then we can return to the presentation?
I've just got a couple of remarks that I want to share with you guys.
Right. Please do.
Is it the next slide for anyone? Or?
I think we want to see each other. We want to hear a little bit. Marvin, is he?
Well, I wanted to speak a little bit about the statistics.
Or hear
I
anything?
know a pretty fair amount about a lot of this.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back. I've stopped sharing there, but Lily, you can see us all?
Get my piece on this, but I hope you'll listen to me a little bit. So
We can hear you, Marvin.
okay, as most of you may know, I'm the founder and president of Planet Rope for the Hungry, and extremely proud of the work that Lily and her team of interns have been doing this summer. We're growing food like crazy, and of course, we've had an influence on the community in sharing what they grow to the families that are in need. I want to speak specifically to a topic that's near and dear to my heart, my particular business. And this is not a commercial because on a local point of view, I do not profit from those people who have been using padded mailers to send out their t-shirts and other materials in padded mailers. And to most of us, we don't realize that when you look at a padded mailer, now my business, I happen to have many patents on business mailers that are made from paper and paperboard. They are all recyclable to the tune of 70%. Plastic, on the other hand, is 4 to 6% recycled. Asia does not take our plastic any longer. The drive to go to single-use plastic is extremely important. Take a look at your e-commerce deliveries, and you'll see even in a corrugated box that are usually oversized, they're filled with plastic to protect the contents when they hardly even need protection. But I will tell you that I was able to convince a few organizations in Port Washington who thought they were dealing with padded mailers that were recyclable. The answer is no, because the contents, the plastic by itself may be recycled, the paperboard itself may be recycled material. Once they're glued together, there is no way of separating the two materials for recycling purposes. And I think if you go to the post office, you talk about government needs to do a better job. The post office, well, we know that the post office operates as an individual entity from the government, but they are basically legislated by the government. And they actively sell plastic mailers and padded mailers on a very active basis.
Yeah, so on that note, we need the systems change. I think that's why we're talking to Lily, because we want to hear the young people, because we need like a complete overhaul from, you know.
No, the only reason why I'm even mentioning this, Hildur, is that a lot of people are fooled by the indications that are printed on these materials that they claim that they're recyclable when the statistics belie that. Completely.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think we should give the word back to Lily in terms of the topic today is youth-led systems change. I think I've never seen, I mean, it's always been youth that creates change from the 60s, 70s, the first environmental movement. And I feel like we're sort of in the a new wave. There is a new thinking that's emerging, and I think those points you're mentioning, and I want to really recognize the work that Marvin does, because from seed to plant to feeding the hungry and shipping off whatever needs to be sent, but from every step matters, Lily, right? So I'm going to give you back the word. In terms of like what I'm really encouraged by, just recently we had millions take to the street, and it's not a revolution it's a revolution that's picking up speed, and you can see it in the schools. Educators are increasingly aware. I feel like if I speak to students or educators, I feel like there's a systems change coming. What do you think, Lily?
100%. Like you saw, I think it was like over 100 countries. I think it was 102 countries participated in the school strike for climate with Greta Thunberg last year and early this year before COVID hit. And that's like incredible, because it's becoming a worldwide movement. It's not just here. It's not just like our education system or anything. It's the whole world. And in terms of climate change, that's extremely important, because if one country does things a little better, it's great for alleviating stuff, but it's not global. I think that's
absolutely. So you mentioned, what you wear. You stay away from sort of fashion forward materials, but rather look for sustainably sourced. Do you feel like your contemporaries, your friends do the same?
I started doing that early this summer, so I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to friends about it yet. But whenever school starts again and I'm like seeing people in person more, I'll definitely talk about it, and I think that'll help out. Right now, I try to shop secondhand when I can, and don't like throw out clothes that like don't get clothes that I know I'll throw out. Like I only get clothes that I know I'm going to wear a lot and use a lot and keep, instead of just buying clothes to like get like a certain look every day and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is culture at this point.
Yeah, because they found out that it's microfibers on the beach. Something's wrong with my mic. Is it coming out garbled, my voice?
Yeah, it's coming in a little garbled. I think it's just maybe you need to move it out from where it is, just so you can speak in it. Yeah.
Let's see.
I was wondering, Lily, I was looking at a recent study that was done, and it's probably it came up. You said something that I thought was really very powerful. That Generation Z is ready to save the world, and I'm wondering, there was a study that done about from a cultural forecasting firm, and I'm wondering, from your view, how do we do that? Is it social media? Is it activism? Is it getting out and getting the word out? What are your thoughts about that?
I think education is going to be a big way that change is going to happen. If people are actually informed about climate change and there's like people are presented with the facts, then it's almost hard to not want to fight it. Like you see a lot of the people that aren't doing things about climate change are the people who deny it's even happening. So if people know that it's happening and know that it's going to affect future generations, I don't see how they wouldn't be doing any action for it.
Yeah, how do you deal with climate change deniers? What's your coping skill?
My old boss from back when I worked at this ice cream place was a very big climate denier and would kind of like poke fun at me for being vegan, and that wasn't fun, but I would try not to just not to bring it up much, and if I did, I would be like, well, I would basically say you can't deny that the world is warming more now, like there's facts, like regardless of how much of it that you believe is humans, there has to be a significant part of it if you see what we're doing with the deforestation. Like, yeah, climate changes, but this time it's extreme and there are many things going extinct. And of course he didn't believe me and like just said it's the climate changing and like it's another ice age and whatever, but I try.
Yeah. The beauty is we've created islands of plastic in the ocean. And so that's sort of leaving there's no denying human impact on the ecosystems.
For sure.
Yeah.
Didn't people find like some sort of like bacteria that adapted to eating plastic on that island? I
Yes,
forgot.
I heard about that. I heard about that. Life started in the ocean and it was bacteria. And I think we should really turn to bacteria. Biotechnology can really help us with many problems. You're right. But behavioral change must take place now.
For sure.
So if you could summarize, what are the main points to you that we should do?
To fight climate change?
Yeah.
Okay. There has to be a change in culture, in my opinion. Like, we have to stop having this culture that we need like a ton of everything, because we really don't. Like, you don't need like a ton of earrings that are from mine, like the gems are from mines. You don't need to produce that much of it. That's like the whole culture of like overproduction and utilizing natural resources for profit seems to be a big part of the cause of climate change. Like with the fossil fuel industry, you have people that are just like mining all this like coal and fracking and whatnot, and like there's no real need, considering that like we could build sustainable, we can already build like solar farms and wind farms, and I think even like tidal energy is becoming like popular now, where like there's like, depending on the tides, it like moves some sort of thing. I don't know enough about it, but I remember someone in my class did a presentation on it. That's one. Another thing would be to be mindful about where everything comes from. Like when you like buy something at the supermarket, you could have like a salad or something, and like the lettuce will be from this country, the tomatoes will be from this country. It'll be in like this plastic package with another plastic wrap about it in a paper box. And it's a lot. And even if you can't like really combat it now, either because it's like cheaper, it's convenient or whatever, just being aware of it, I think makes you already start to push back on it a little.
Yeah, see, I think there's increasing interest in cycles, not linear flow of production. So we produce something and then we throw it out. But instead, we'd like to take the waste and use it for production, right?
Oh, for sure.
Close the loops. Yeah.
So I really like that, Lily. I like and I really believe that we're at a time, certainly during coronavirus and the COVID-19, here we are, people are dislocated, but yet we're all very united using technology. And, you know, we're also very, very focused on where stuff comes from, consumerism. You know, we know that there's less consumerism now. We don't need to go out and buy lots of stuff. Here we are connecting with each other, connecting with family and friends, and doing the things that really are very valuable, you know, if you will, have a great value, but don't necessarily cost a lot of money for us to do. And I like that. I like that wonderful quality of it. And I hope that we don't have to force it down everyone's throat in order to make it happen, that people are actually, you know, move towards it based on a real recognition of that value. That's great. So what's in store for you, Lily? We're coming at the end of the show here, and I'm just wondering what your plans are. Not that we want to, not that you have them all figured out, but right now, what's inspiring you? What is the very thing now that's really coming up for you, that's rising for you in terms of where you are now, or maybe over the next few weeks or months?
I'm learning a lot about like political stuff and different things and how things could be changed for the better. Like I was discussing before, like stop overproducing things. Like you don't need 3,000 plastic forks and like half of those don't get bought and then they end up in a landfill somewhere. Like there's no need for that. And learning that that's still happening and being aware of it has kind of inspired me to start thinking about, okay, why is this happening? Why are we like interested in getting this much stuff? And so I've been learning about that. I've been trying to learn more in general. And also I think I would love to just learn more about what we could do science-wise, not just culturally, on fighting climate change. So there's like a rise in doing like sustainable agriculture and permaculture right now, like almost self-sustaining gardens that will be able to be used in the future without soil erosion or water depletion and that sort of stuff.
Mm. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, as you say, I really see you, and I'm inspired that there is some hope in the future. As I get a little older, I start wondering whether or not there is hope, given the circumstances that we're in today. And after hearing you this morning, I really not only am inspired, but I'm very hopeful. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your brilliance. Really quite brilliant. I appreciate that. And Hildur, thank you. Thank you for bringing Lily into our lives. I think we've got some time for some questions if we're up to it. And I think we can open it up to everyone if that's okay with you, Hildur.
Absolutely, I welcome that.
Okay, I'm unmuting everyone. So just be aware that if you do ask a question or you have a point to make, your video will go on and you will be included in the show. And we're opening it up to everyone. So feel free to jump in.
I have to leave you guys. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, everybody. Great.
Thanks, Marvin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Marvin. Very good point about the plastic and the paper, and we need to be mindful of that and speak up.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question for you, Lil. I'm a high school science teacher, and I think by definition, if you're an educator, you're an optimist. You're doing something now with the hope that things are going to get better tomorrow. But I have to admit, I feel very pessimistic, and I really were. The UN statement about a year ago. We've got 12 years to get CO2 levels back to pre-95 levels, I think, or we're going to face catastrophic, irreversible global changes. So I really wonder if the current government and social institutions that we have, with all the momentum that we have, and with China and India ready to start burning so much more coal and whatnot, can we turn it around fast enough? So I guess I'm asking you, as a student, I, as a teacher, can really affect rapid change, and the question applies kind of to everyone. But I'm just wondering, what can I do with my kids that are going to get them not to wake up 11 years from now, but to wake up now?
Oh, thank you for the question. I appreciate that you're trying to make a change with so many young people, because younger people are the future, as I tried to make clear in this presentation. I think that trying to get like the emotional side of it is important, because when we hear about something happening in like 200 years that's going to get, like, the climate's going to get hot, no one's really going to think much, especially like we're going to say, oh, it's going to be X amount of degrees Celsius. Someone's like, oh, it's just going to be a hotter day. And there's kind of like an apathy to it. But if you like when I was taking biology, my teacher had assigned everyone in the endangered species on Long Island to learn about. And that kind of helped out. We learned about like all these different creatures that going endangered, like these like little birds and all these different lizards and bugs and all these various creatures. And I feel like people could empathize better with something living than and now over something like years that doesn't exactly have a physical form. That makes
Yeah, that makes sense.
sense. Also, there's like certain island nations, I forgot exactly where, that are already being very affected by climate change with like hurricanes and sea level rising. And if people see that it's already happening and these people are already becoming climate refugees, like the first climate refugees moving to different places because their homeland is being destroyed, I think that also helps people open up to know that this isn't just something that people are imagining or theorizing. This is a real thing and it is happening now. It's not just like people thinking about science in the future. It's not just something that only people who understand math or something can understand. It's real life. I think that's important.
Frederica, I saw you talking.
Okay, we have a question from Frederica.
Yeah.
I'll unmute you, Frederica. I think you're unmuted.
Okay,
There you
thank
go.
you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to reinforce what Lily just said. If you look even at what happened in Syria, that started with a terrible, terrible drought. And that started people having to leave Syria and a lot of the problems that happened. And so many of the wars that are happening right now are because of water and drought. So she's absolutely right. And the more we can draw these connections, the more hope there is. Thank you so much, Lily, for your talk. You do give me hope, and I needed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So good. I think Diana Hartle has a question. Diana, let me unmute you. Hold on.
Yes, and I see Raymond raised his hand.
Okay. 1 second, Diana. Okay, you're doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. So, Lily, thank you. I love what you're doing. I've had students also who are like you, and I've had them a few years ago, and now they're continuing on. They're completely dedicated and committed, and I see that in you too. I'm not a pessimist or an optimist. We just work. We just do what we got to do. The kelp forest was something that was mentioned. The kelp forests are dying because of the rising temperatures in the oceans. There's another thing where you pull a little thread of the ecosystem and look at one thing and you see the whole thing. You get to climate change from the one thing, and you made that point, and excellent. And let's just keep moving forward. You're wonderful, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Lots of affirmation here, Lily. So very, very good stuff. Thank you. Any other questions at this point? I think Raymond, you have a question, please.
Okay. Lily, thank you so much for the presentation. Really enjoyed it. And I just wanted to go back to one thing you said early on when you were talking about your project of Plant to Grow, combining the wild plants and the vegetables. Often we kind of compartmentalize things. We have a social vision of trying to help people out. We have an environmental vision, trying to help the environment out. But actually, a social program is an environmental program. Everything's all interrelated. And somehow we have to get these compartments together. And I really enjoyed that when you said we're combining the wild plants and the vegetables. And hope is something that we have to hold on to. We have to be hopeful, because that's the only way anything is going to get done. I mean, there's enough negative news surrounding us by the day. I curate an environmental education site for, it's not really for Orion magazine, but it's, I went to an environmental writers conference, Orion Environmental Writers Conference, and the people who have participated in the conference have stayed together, and I try to post ecological news. The sad thing is so much of the news that there is to post is sad news. There's so many sad things happening. So you're always trying to find good things as well, but we can't give up our hope. That's a very important part of what we have. And that's why the statistics that you cited are very important and very hopeful.
Yeah, and I feel like systems change starts with the thinking, change in thinking. So instead of saving the ocean, we should look to collaborate. That's my most recent thought. Oysters can filter about 50 gallons of, one oyster can filter 50 gallons of water. Is that right, the water expert here? Oysters and kelp and all kinds of shellfish can actually purify the estuary. So if we start working with the life that's been here since the Cambrian explosion, we really are living with life that's been here much longer than us. So I think if humans started collaborating a little bit better and not just eating animals, if we started sort of working with plant life, that's really the source of life. We have the greenery here catching sun energy and then transforming it into life. And if we were able to just learn something from the intelligence that's there, there is intelligence driving life on Earth. We've just been sort of fighting it, extracting it. So I think that restorer mentality, this renewable movement, just a couple of decades ago, people would just like walk the other way when I came and be like, there's this tree hugger, you know, like the hippie, the person who never grew up, like, you know, and now it's actually a thing that scientists, like now it's okay to be a tree hugger. Now an environmentalist is less frowned upon.
Right.
You know,
right.
they used to group them together, the naturalists, the nudists, the the wackos. But actually,
I'm not sure about all those categories, but but here's the thing, Hildur. First of all, I think within the context of where we're going, certainly Lily, you provided us with some vision. You know, we have, I think, many of us, certainly I can only speak for myself, I've probably more years behind me than I do ahead of me, for sure. And you've provided with some vision in terms of where your generation can possibly take us. And I think it would be wonderful to hear more about that in terms of activism, in terms of getting out and actually making things happen. Because, you know, talk is cheap. Talk doesn't cook rice. And certainly within the context of making things happen, it's your generation that really has the larger voice, much larger, by the way, than my generation, which is the boomer generation. There's more Generation Zs than there are boomers, which is wonderful. So I want to thank you for that. And maybe, Hildur, we can have more of Lily and her folks on, her friends or people that are involved with the movement on a little bit later. But thank you again, Lily. I really appreciate your insight and your wisdom.
Thank you. I appreciate that everyone's here to like listen and that I'm able to talk about what I'm passionate about. It means a lot.
Yes, and the birds loved it, by the way. The birds.
I see Steve. Steve is raising his hand.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Lily, would you be open to being in touch with my AP Environmental Science students and my students from the Environmental Action Committee where I teach at Wheatley? Maybe we can collaborate in some way.
Okay, yeah, sure.
You're actually in Merrick. Lily is in Merrick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So there you go, Lily. Your first assignment potentially on the road already. There you go. That's fantastic. Thank you, Steve. And Hildur, for folks that want to get in touch with you to go ahead and be on the show, how would they get in touch with you? And I think just in terms of closing the show, I think we've had a wonderful show. Thank you so much for the insight and the topic. And for going forward, how would people get in touch with you? And you know, what might you think we'll do for the next show if you have any ideas around that?
It's if anyone has any thoughts or ideas for next speaker, I'm always open to just connect friends. That's what we're doing here, and friends who care. My email is hildur@rewildlongisland.org. I like what Heinz was suggesting, that we connect to the First Nation here on island. So I think I'll reach out to some friends, maybe the Shinnecock Nation is very active environmentally. So perhaps we can get a speaker from there. That's something that comes to mind.
I love that idea. As a matter of fact, that's been on my mind a lot lately in terms of First Nation and really understanding this wisdom, this natural wisdom, this native wisdom that has been here and still lives here. So I would hope that we can do that. That would be great. And
Yes, that's what
Lily,
I'll do this week.
And Lily, you have a closing point?
Before I mention that, I actually reached out to someone I know online who's a Dene person from, I forgot exactly where, somewhere in North America. And I asked if he had anything he wanted to say to this group because I wanted to give him a voice. And I'll be going to go read that now. It's, I have to go look for it in a minute, so.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Lily. And I'm going to close on this point that we really, really appreciate you, Hildur, and everyone that joins us. This is an open community. If anyone has any points that they'd like to bring up or any news stories or things that we should talk about, please get a hold of Hildur or myself, Keith Fiveson, at the Work Mindfulness Project. That's workmindfulness.com, kfiveson@workmindfulness.com, for the Center for Wellbeing, which is in Manhasset. And we're going to go into overtime here, Hildur, but we're going to end the show right now. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week.